Hello. So I wanted to talk to you today about something different. I thought I would talk to you today about schizophrenia. Uh, it's not necessarily an easy thing to talk about, but not every conversation has to be an easy conversation. So I'll start at the beginning. You know, um, schizophrenia is the old joke, about mental illness. It's all in your head. But it is also in your body. It's in the way that you do, it's in the way that you perceive and process information. So it's not just a joke. And it's also not just, I used to tell people, they would ask me, they'd say, well, what is it like to hear voices in your head? And I would say, when you're watching a TV talk show late at night, the comedian's up in front of the audience and he tells a joke and maybe it goes over, maybe it doesn't go over so big, and then someone in the audience screams something out. Ah! But you can't understand what they're saying, but you feel it, and the comedian has to parlay that into something meaningful or funny for the audience. So he makes a joke, oh, I love you too, sir, or oh, yes, ma'am, I'll meet you after the show. It becomes a joke because you have to somehow process that information. So this is what schizophrenia is as well. It's a way of processing information. And, I don't get paid to tell jokes. I get paid to be an artist, and so making art as a schizophrenic is something complete. It's the entirety of my art practice. Since I was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 1995, 6, something like that, I've wanted to tell that story. It was the only story that I could tell that was true, that went beyond the superficial easy way out, But it's so ingrained in who I am as a person and what I do. I feel like you should be able to see my hands. Maybe I have to lift my hands up. It's so ingrained in who I am as a person and what I do as an artist. Art isn't easy. That's what Anselm Kiefer says. Art is not entertainment. And I have to agree with him. It's not easy, And the fact is, living with schizophrenia is also not easy. It's very nice to say, oh, yeah, well, he's being honest and talking about schizophrenia. It's a pain in the ass, it really is. It's a daily struggle. It starts in the morning and it ends, waking up in the middle of the night because a voice woke you up, It doesn't stop. It's 24/7. But at the same time, it's not all fear and doubt and confusion and misunderstanding. There's a lot of beauty to the way of making things that schizophrenia has taught me, because it has taught me how to translate human experience, how to transform my experience, and transformation isn't easy. But my art has become a process of transformation for me. And that promise of transformation is what people relate to when they see and experience my art. They're understanding something about themselves that goes beyond schizophrenic or sane, and touches upon something very, very human. So what we're trying to talk about when we talk about making art with schizophrenia is something very, very human. Something that's not easy. It's not easy to be a human being. And that struggle, that struggle is the struggle of, of hearing things in your head, or I don't see things. Thank God for that. I know Robin Williams, right before he died, I know I'm not supposed to mention people's names, but he, I think he was starting to see things. That would scare the crap out of me. But the hearing things, it's all right. So, schizophrenia is a way of making. It's a gestalt, if you will. It's a way of understanding the world because inside the world is a secret world. Inside the world is a secret experience that everybody knows about, but no one wants to talk about because it's too intimate, it's too close, it's too severe in a way, because it is so close to what we actually are. Now, I don't mean to say that I know more about what we are than anybody else. I probably know a hell of a lot less because I'm so busy trying to understand it that I probably missed the point. But let me start real quick, and we're just going to go over this real quick because I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I don't want to take up too much of my time. But, I remember walking through the park. I used to live near a national park in Southern California. Before I moved to the desert, I lived near another national park. And I would walk through the park and I would hear from the hills. When you hear voices in your head, you don't hear them in your head, you hear them outdoors. They're outside of you, they're not in you. Everyone says, oh, it's an internal experience. The internal experience is the gestalt of schizophrenia, but the voices that you hear are like the voices at a talk show. The voices at a talk show, they're not in the body of the comedian on stage, although they may be, but they're not technically. That's part of the secret world. So I was walking in the park and I was hearing these voices screaming, and it was very unintelligible. But sometimes there were words that they would say things that you could actually understand, like, you're one. You're one. There's a kind of oneness, supposedly. In my experience, there's a whole mythology to schizophrenia, or to my schizophrenia, that has to do with human sexuality and the way that you eat, the way that you digest your food, the way that you wash your hands, the way that you walk down the street. It's all part of a gestalt. Something to do with something called oneness. And then there's a polarity to that oneness. There's a man, woman, or a gay, straight, or gay, not gay, or there's a black or a white, or a Jew or a Nazi. It's all very polarized, and we know from human experience that the reality of human experience is not so polarized, but the reality of schizophrenia is quite polarized. I often say that, as I'm making my art, that I am kind of learning from these opposites, from gay, not gay, or one, not one, or self, not other, or other, not otherness. I love that the Buddhists have a way, they talk about otherness or not otherness. I think that's a really lovely way to talk about schizophrenia, because that's the way that you're perceived. There's the part of the way that I'm understood as an artist, as a human being, as a maker, has to do with how close or how far away you get to me. How able am I to tell you about my experience? How much am I able to express myself and make my point clear, be understood, So as much as I'm understood, it's not otherness, it's closeness, it's the heart. It's the feeling of seeing your girlfriend at the end of the day, of having a piece of toast, or a cup of coffee in the morning. And I miss having a girlfriend, I must admit. I was talking to someone last night. I was at a concert last night outdoors, and this is the kind of, when I go out in public and have a long night out with, friends or family or friends of friends, often it's so immediate to me that I feel a little bit lost, and I'm not so good at small talk. I never really learned it. That's a part of schizophrenia that I think is probably something that also the people don't talk about, is that there's socialization skills involved with life that many schizophrenics probably lack a little bit. We lack the way of setting up clear boundaries between ourselves and other people, self and other, otherness and not otherness. And when people sense that you don't have a clear sense of boundaries, it makes them uncomfortable. But as schizophrenics, we know it also makes us very fucking uncomfortable. And small talk is a way of getting around some of that uncomfortableness of, oh yeah, nice weather we've been having, or it's hot in the desert, or it's cold in the mountains, or it's starry at night. And it is starry at night in the desert, and it's very beautiful. It's one of my favorite pastimes is to watch meteor showers at night, you know. But I notice when I watch meteor showers that it's not this steady state experience of God that you hope for when you witness a natural phenomenon like a waterfall or a beautiful sunset. Watching meteors is an anomaly. They don't appear, oh, everything's beautiful. Oh, look, there's a meteor. They appear when you've given up. They appear when you think, oh, I'm not going to see a damn thing tonight. I always say that the meteors are the expression of an anomaly. And that's schizophrenia. That's how I relate to the meteor shower. It's not the beautiful moments. It's the broken and the confused and the contorted and the misconstrued. It's the otherness that I experience when I watch a meteor shower. But the affirmation that that otherness is part of nature, is part of reality, is part of closeness, is maybe even part of God. Now, God is very misunderstood in modern day America. And I have a lot of trouble with my God this day and age because I'm a Jewish man. I was born culturally Jewish. And I investigated the Kabbalah because of its description of polarity and its description of structure. That's what made me a sculptor. I wanted to figure out structure. So Kabbalah is an interesting way of relating to schizophrenia because it has to do with the energy that we exchange as human beings. And it's very truthful in recognizing that there is an energy that we exchange as human beings. That's what small talk is about. That's what making conversation is about. It's about relating to another human being and saying, oh yeah, we all experience energy. And it's discrete and it's experienced to a lot of different levels and extremes. For some people, it's very loud and present and in your face. And for some people, it's just a distant stream that they barely even notice that's going by in their consciousness. They're so involved in their thoughts and their process and being themselves. But in schizophrenia, you're never really yourself. You're not an actor. You're not doing something false. But you're always outside yourself and looking at yourself at the same time as you're experiencing yourself. To be is to be perceived. That's a part of the trick. So, oneness, not oneness, gay, straight, Nazi, Jew, man, woman, black, white, Republican, Democrat, socialist, communist, fascist, anarchist. You know, every polarity that you can think of is a polarity of energy as well. You know, there's an experience of exchange of energy. Not to get too woo-woo or abstract, but that's what I'm talking about when I'm making sculpture. I'm talking about the exchange of energy. I'm talking about the promise of transformation that art can bring to your life. And I know it can bring it to your life because it brings it to my life. And I'm a human being just like you. At the end of the day, all the talk about schizophrenia, I'm a man. I'm just a man. You know, I want to have a girlfriend. I want to express myself. I want to make money. I wish I could drive a car. I don't have a license because when I went to take the driving test, I was so schizophrenic that I tried to make small talk with the driver's ed teacher, and I forgot to actually take care to drive the car very well, and I broke some of the rules of the road, and I didn't get a license, you know. And I've never had a license. When I was a kid, my dad was so involved in his own bipolarity and alcoholism and drug addiction that he wasn't really ever able to take me out and teach me how to drive. And I went to driver's ed classes at school, you know, after high school classes, and you know, I drove the car around the neighborhood, you know, but I never passed the test. And for much of my life, I lived in cities, you know, where I would take public transportation, or I would just walk. I will walk wherever I will, 'cause I love the world, so why sit still? I want nothing between me and the ground. I just want to wander and walk around. I'm a walker. I walk around cities. I spent hours walking around Paris the last time I was there. Didn't really have the money to go to a restaurant, but walking's free. You know, you can walk around any city. I walked for miles in Prague. I walked home from work 20 minutes every night when I lived in Amsterdam. You know, I'm a walker. And I'm also a person that's alone a lot. Alone in my life, alone in my studio making my art. So I wanted to invite you in today and give you some insight as to what the gestalt of schizophrenia is about. I hope it can be something that you can understand as a discrete energy. It's not what you think it is. And it's also not being so crazy that you can't communicate. But at the same time, we both know from the small talk world, different from the inside world, that sometimes the inability to make small talk is kind of like being really crazy. It's a struggle, but I think it's a struggle that's ultimately just part of the human struggle. It's no more of a struggle than, you know, the single mother that has to work 2 jobs to support her family, or the guy that works at the gas station that's so fucking sick of washing people's windows, you know, or pumping gas at this outrageous prices that it costs people now to drive their cars. But that's something that I don't do. I don't drive. I wish I could tell you more, but I'm running out of ways to express it. Maybe I can get back to you when I'm even a little bit more on point and we can have another conversation. But I did want to get some of my thoughts out about the gestalt of schizophrenia today. And, you know, here's a good example. I made this sculpture. Maybe you can see it. It's an ashtray attached to a helmet. Now, if I put it on my head, you won't be able to see the whole thing. But I can show you the whole thing if I hold it up to the camera. Schizophrenia is like having it on your head. Art is like showing you the whole thing so you can see it. That's the difference. It's not inside your head, it's on your head, it's around your head, it's around your body. But we all know that there's an inside world too. So let's not forget that when we meet each other out in public and start to make small talk, that there's a very fragile, human, tenuous, discrete part of human experience. And that's what I want to try to address. With humor, with love, with brevity, with kindness. That's what is important to me. I hope I've made myself a tiny bit clear today and we were able to approach some of these subjects that are so difficult to talk about. I look forward to talking to you again soon.